Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Look, we've got wrong side Harley in the background. I still can't figure out my left from my right when I'm reversed on camera. Did it again. Oh my gosh. Look, there's Harley. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. I'm excited about our content today. This is going to be a guided workshop where we are designing a life of authenticity and purpose. So, when we talk about creating a life by design and a life of intention, this is actually the design stage of that effort. So, excited that we're at this point. And for those of you who are newer, hi and welcome. My name is Gabby with She Makes It Work, and I'm so excited to be sharing this framework for designing, creating, and building a life that you can genuinely love. We see so many people who are going through their lives and they're just kind of getting through it, tolerating their activities, living for the weekend. You hear that a lot, living for vacations. And instead, what I want to share with everybody is that it really is possible to design a life where every day you're happy, every day you're fulfilled, every day you're looking forward to what you get to do that day. This is something that you can really do, but it takes this kind of genuine intention and focus in order to build it. So thank you again for joining. And nope, wrong direction again. So and then that is Harley, who loves to be on camera with us if you haven't met Harley before. All right, so let me go ahead and introduce what we're doing, and then we'll get into the exercises. So, for those of you who joined our session last week, we focused on uncovering your identity, your values, your passions, and your strengths. Today, we're going to bridge the gap between the life that you envision and the path that you're currently on. The reason we're doing that is so that you can take meaningful steps towards alignment. So today is all about identifying your purpose and making a plan to live a more fulfilling life, one that you really do love. Don't worry if you missed last week's session. It's not required for today, and you can always go back and watch the replay of that self-discovery session whenever you like. And we will be redoing these sessions quarterly, so the replays are always up and available, but I will be hosting these lives every single quarter so that people can catch up with the program and get started whenever they want, but can participate in the conversations together. All right, hopefully you're ready. Make sure you've got your beverage. I've got Starbucks today as my little treat for doing the lives. Make sure that you do have a notebook or that you've got notes up on your computer because this is a working session. So you will need to be doing some inner work and you will need to be writing some things down. It's a guided session though, and you don't have to share anything you're not comfortable sharing. This is really for you. But if you have any questions, put them in chat. I'm happy to answer at any time. And if you do feel like sharing any of what you're discovering, what you're thinking, definitely put it in there. I would love to hear it, but no pressure if you're not comfortable. This is deeply personal work for a lot of people. All right, hopefully you're ready. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me just a second, and we will dive into the exercises. And first, I want to ground into what purpose is because I feel like this word has been used quite a bit. And for some people, it's actually losing meaning. So, purpose is the thread that weaves together who you are and what really gives your life meaning. It is the quiet force that guides your choices. It brings fulfillment. It helps you create a life that feels whole and true to you. Living a life aligned with your purpose brings you joy that can fuel your day and satisfies something deep in your soul. And what I really want to emphasize here is that when you align your life with purpose, it's not perfect. We're not talking about perfection here at all. What we're looking for is meaning. We're looking for fulfillment, joy, and authenticity that you can carry with you on your life's journey. So let's go ahead and ground into some purpose questions. And you may have written some of this last week if you were in that session. So go ahead and bring that forward. You can reference your notes from there, or you can sit down and answer this with a fresh perspective today. But what values and passions feel most important to you right now? And the beginning of the year is a great time to ask yourself these questions because a lot of people do some introspection at the end of the year. You're starting the year off fresh. Some of this should be top of mind for you. So, what values and passions feel most important to you right now? And if you need more time, if I start going too fast, go ahead and put that in chat. But just really think about which values and passions are the most important to you. And when you think about those values and passions, how do those translate into meaningful actions or contributions? So I'm going to rephrase that slightly. If you think about those values and passions, what do they look like in action? How do you see other people living them? Or how does it look like when you live them, or how you would like to be showing up? But what does that look like? I'm going to give you an example while you're thinking. I know I've mentioned quite a bit that I'm focused on healthy lifestyle. And so for me, I would say meaningful actions and contributions in the health and fitness category to me looks like making healthy food choices regularly and making room for physical activity regularly in my week. That's an example in the health and fitness category. All right, up next, we're going to take that and craft that into a purpose statement. And you can always adjust this later if it doesn't resonate. This is all about you, but this is a starting point. So when you think about what you wrote for values and purpose and you think about your identity, you can put that together into a statement that you can use going forward. So even if this exercise feels a little weird, trust the process and just go through this with me and write it down in your journal and in your notebook. The format is I am, and then you put in your identity or essence, driven by, and then you put in those values that you just wrote down, and fueled by those passions. And I express this through these actions or roles. And then I have some examples on the bottom of the screen, just to help clarify this. If this is the first time you've done something like this, you might be like, Gabby, what the heck? But I did put some examples on here. So one could be I'm a nurturer driven by empathy and fueled by a passion for helping others grow. I express this through mentoring and creating supportive environments. Another one is I am a creator driven by curiosity and fueled by a love of storytelling. I express this through writing and building connections. And someone did share on a previous live that they really felt like they were a learner at heart. And so you might lead with, I'm a learner, and, go on from there. So, whatever the answer is for you, don't self monitor, don't edit, just really put that down. And you can keep this private for always, always, always. You don't have to share with anybody. And that removes some of that pressure for self monitoring and for editing out yourself, right? We do that a lot. We edit ourselves out, but don't do that here. This is for you. Jeremy says, I appreciate the examples. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm trying to get better about that. So thank you for that affirmation. I appreciate that. If anybody does feel like sharing their purpose statements, this is a safe space and please, please do. But again, no pressure. This really is for you. And for some of you, this might feel so personal that you may never want to share it with anybody. And that's always okay too. For my purpose statement, for example, I would say I'm a builder and I am driven by passion around service and creation and creativity. And I express this through all the work that I do with building frameworks, through writing stories, and by just genuinely trying to create as much as I can in this life. Do we need more time for the purpose statement? I'm not sure how much time you need for this one, so I'd love it if you could put in chat if you are ready to move on or if you need a little bit more time for the purpose statements. May, thank you. May says she's got hers. May, thanks for joining. Thanks for commenting. All right, first answer is the decider. So we are going to go ahead and move into the next section. So sometimes the life we're living doesn't align with the life that we really, really want. And bridging this gap requires understanding that misalignment and identifying the steps that you need to take to shift towards this purpose driven living. And most of us have a gap. That's why we're doing this, right? So that's what this next section is all about, is just identifying those areas of misalignment and figuring out how to close that gap. And this exercise might feel familiar to people who are in the last session. So feel free to bring your notes forward or just kind of rewrite it and restate it in this session. But I want you to visualize what your ideal life looks like. And when you do that, I don't want you to be one dimensional. The guidance here is to consider your career, relationships, well-being, and creativity. That could involve learning. So these are broad categories, but I want you to think multidimensionally about what your ideal life looks like. And I'm going to again encourage you, don't self-monitor, don't self-edit, just really put down what this looks like for you. And there's no need to feel any like shame, or don't write down what you think you should write down. Write down what you really think. And Jeremy, thank you for affirming that you are also good to go. I appreciate that. Now, let's take that one step further and identify, where does your current life feel out of alignment with that vision? Where is the life that you're living not matching that? What categories? What activities? If you're finding that there's either a lot of misalignment or a wide gap in a certain area, I'm going to encourage you not to get discouraged by that. We are here to take action and make plans and resolve these things. And identifying areas of disconnect is necessary, right, for making a change. So it's okay if you're out of alignment. Most of us are in some way. This is just a necessary step to put you on a path towards aligning. And I'm going to give you an example here because I do think that there's so many inspirational stories out there. And I remember hearing about someone who loved to travel, but they were really stuck in a desk job and they could only travel maybe once a year. And so they felt like they were working all year so that they could do the thing they love once a year, which is a huge misalignment with their passion, right? Well, with the advent of certain kinds of social media, they became a travel vlogger. They completely switched their lives around so that what they do every day is aligned with what they're passionate about. So I don't want you to feel like it's not possible. It just takes a little creativity and a lot of courage. I am going to say that. So now that you've identified a little bit of gap in alignment, or maybe you haven't, and if anybody's like, nope, I'm 100% there, let us know. And that's awesome. We want to celebrate that. But if you do have some sort of a gap or misalignment, think about what specific areas those are in and what might need to shift. So, what areas might need to shift to move you closer to your ideal life? And going with the example I just gave, that person needed to shift their work so their work allowed them to live their passion all the time. So just you don't need the solution yet, but just think about which areas need to make a shift. And let me know in chat, does anybody need more time for this section or are we ready to move into the next section? I don't want to hurry you at all. But if you've got a crystal clear picture in your head and you're ready to move on, let me know. All right, May says she's good. So let's look back on the 6 dimensions of life because as we go through the Life by Design program, the Sixfold Path is the core of it. So I'm going to ask you to check in with this. You just wrote down some alignment, and we want to check in and say, now that you've identified your purpose statement and thought about some areas of misalignment, let's go a little bit deeper. So the first part of this section is identifying which dimensions in life feel the most aligned with your purpose. So when you take a look at the 6 elements here, which ones feel most aligned with your purpose? And as you think through that, also think about which ones feel neglected or out of balance. So even if they're not aligned with your purpose, they are still fundamental for leading a well balanced and happy life. So which ones feel out of balance? And I know I've shared before that I've leaned at times so hard into service and my work associated with that that I've lost health. And there were times where I lost spirituality and meaning. And there were times where my creativity was put on the back burner. And I love those things too. And sometimes we do sacrifice one for the other. But building a balanced life with intention requires us to check in sometimes and see where we might be a little out of whack. And as we exit this slide, I want you to think about what we did on the previous slide where we looked at alignment. And then here we're also saying now just double checking what else might be out of balance and also kind of doubly anchored into our purpose and where that aligns. So think about that. Make sure you've got your notes down. So as we think more about bridging this gap, again, from those last two exercises, what is one major shift or decision that could bring you closer to that life that you envisioned? Where you've identified these areas of misalignment and you know what you want that ideal life to look like, think about what is one major shift or decision that could bring you closer. And I'm just going to give that inspirational example again about the person who became a travel vlogger. And every time I heard that or a similar story, I've always thought, oh, that sounds great, but I couldn't do that. But also, why not? Right? Like, why not? That's literally for me what I'm doing right now is I'm shifting into something where every day I'm excited to do the thing that I get to do. So I'm going to encourage you to dream big and not say, oh, I couldn't do that. Just write down what it would be if you did. And then moving forward, what shifts do you need to make to be more in balance with the 6 dimensions? We identified where you're out of balance. And so, what shifts would you need to make to create more balance in your life? So, you're not constantly sacrificing one thing that's important to you to do something else. And as you think about those shifts, right? The big shift or decision, and then these balance related shifts, as you think about those, what support or resources would you need in order to make those shifts? That could involve learning something new, that could involve leaning on your network, it could involve building new connections in order to make a major change. What would that look like? What support or resources would you need? It could even be smaller things like a gym membership or a workout buddy. It could be anything. What's interesting is that a lot of times when we talk about building new habits or making changes in our lives, some of the biggest support we need is just someone to talk to about it or knowing that other people are doing the same thing. And a lot of people also want more accountability, which could come in the form of reminders, somebody to celebrate with. Those are also examples of support when we look at making changes in our lives. I know that's been hugely helpful to me. I have some really big cheerleaders in my corner that help me celebrate success when I try and do something new, validate me on my health journey. And I can tell you all of that has helped so much as I make big, big changes for myself. And I'm sure you knew this was coming, but now we're going to set some goals. And you may have already set goals for the year, and that's totally fine. And you can, you know, tune those if you need to, you can add to them. But based on what you've really dug into today, what are one or two high level goals for the year, specifically tied to purpose and balance, specifically tied to what we just did so far today? And I do have some examples on here, and I'll read a couple of them. I did have plenty of examples on this one, but I'll read a couple. One is strengthen my relationships by spending intentional time with loved ones. That's something I have to be intentional about. I have to make sure I'm not forgetting to do that as I dive deep into creativity and service. Another one could be switch to a career that aligns more with my purpose around service or around whatever your purpose is. So, really think about one to two high level goals, and they can be big. You've got a year, right? And as you think about these goals, if you feel like sharing them, go ahead and put them in chat. I'd love to see them. And sometimes sharing them feels good, and sometimes it's okay to keep it a little bit more private and marinate on it. In the past, ones that have helped me are like fuel creativity by completing one artistic project this year. That has helped me so much in those years where I wanted to write a book so badly and I just hadn't finished one. And one year I'm like, this is the year I will write and finish a book this year. And I did. And it felt so good. Other years I've had to set boundaries around work, maybe not so successfully, but I tried really hard. All right, let me know how we're doing on timing for this one, if you need more time for goals or if you've already crystallized them. May, I love that. Do something you love with someone you love at least once a week and track it. You've refined it from last week. I think you added the tracking, right? In this refinement. I love that. Yes, perfect. And not to state the obvious, but I love that you added tracking because tracking keeps us on track, right? Like making sure that we actually check in that we're doing it. It honestly helps so much. All right. Now we're getting into planning, my favorite part. Okay. So, yes, big goals can feel overwhelming, But the way that we make them manageable is to break them down into small, manageable steps to make them achievable. May's already done that in her goal statement where she's got a weekly thing she's going to do towards her overarching intention, right? And so if you already have that in your goal, that's great. But let's go ahead and say, what progress do you want to see by the end of the first month for those big goals you just identified to move closer to alignment with purpose and balance? So, what progress do you want to see towards your goals by the end of the first month? And make it small, make it something that you know you can commit to because you can always do more. I always like to tell people get some wins under your belt, right? And then if you're comfortable, just jot down in your notebook the 12 months and just quickly jot down an idea of how you can build towards your goal over the course of the 12 months. And May, I'm just going to use you as an example, if that's okay. May might say, I'm going to start off by doing this twice in the first month, three times in the second month, and build up to every week. Like that might be the plan is to build up to weekly. I'm not saying you have to do that, May. I'm just using an example. But as you look at your big goal, how are you building towards that over 12 months? If you're trying to shift your job, it might be learning a skill and building contacts over the 12 months and then starting to feel out opportunities in month 4. But just really think about what that build over the 12-month course can look like. And I know people in chat might be more or less familiar with a roadmap, so that's why I'm wanting to make sure to explain how to do that is just looking across time and seeing how it builds up. And as you look at those 12 months and start to break down the goal into a plan here, think about what resources or actions will help you reach the milestones. Think about what you need in order to achieve what you're trying to do. And that will actually help you plan a little bit better. Like if you know you need to take, if you're trying to learn something, do you need to take a course? What is it that you are either reliant on or need to do in order to achieve the goal? So let's get a little bit more granular. What is one small intentional action you can take this week to align with your goal? That could be reaching out to somebody, that could be sitting down and spending more time planning if the goal is so big that you need some more dedicated time. It could be engaging with a support structure or identifying what support you need and lining up your cheerleading team. What is one small intentional action you can take this week to align with that goal? And if you're staying for the planning session that's at 11 Central, the weekly planning, you'll carry this forward into the weekly planning. This is where you cross check your thinking a little bit. So I want you to pause and think about how will these actions help you bridge the gap between your envisioned life and the path you're currently on. This is a cross checking to make sure you really understand how you're building towards that and also making sure that it matches, if that makes sense. So just do a little self check right here. And you might even say, by doing this, I'll be able to XYZ. And I want you to write it in such a way that you can refer back to it later because when we make these big changes, what helps us stay on track is to anchor back into our why, but also to remind ourselves of how we committed to moving forward. Kind of two levels of why, if that makes sense. Let me know if you have this set already or if you need a little bit more time here before we move on. Jeremy says he's good. Okay, thank you, Jeremy. All right. So that is the design portion of what we're doing with Life by Design. And so great job. I know that that was some intense work for a lot of us to just dig really deep. So just to set some context in where we are, we've gone through the discover phase. That's part of what we did last week and the week previous when we did some self-reflection on the previous year and then also did some discovery around understanding ourselves. Today was all about design and designing actionable goals. And then the next step, now that you have your roadmap and your plan, is to really step into it, right? To start making these changes through intentional daily, weekly, and monthly actions. And as we move through the framework together, what we're doing as a group and as a community is checking in with each other, providing support and answering questions, and just really being part of this process together. Because we all know that community support, engaging with other people is one of the best ways to stay on track when changes get hard, because they do. Changes get hard. Even when we're so excited and energized at first, it's a long road sometimes, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it to get to that point where you're in alignment. So just great job getting to this point. And now we're stepping into action. Even if that next action is more detailed planning on your part or some analysis and learning, that's okay. That is still action. That still counts, right? So very excited about that. And then I should probably do this with 2 monitors because I keep having to switch back and forth. So what we've done today is we've created a crystallized purpose statement together. We've revealed insights into misalignments between your current life and your ideal life. We've got a high-level goal for the year that's tied to the Sixfold Path and your purpose, and a roadmap for monthly and weekly actions to stay aligned. All of this is great work, and bridging the gap between the life you're living and the life you want 100% takes courage, clarity, and commitment. So today, you have taken huge steps towards living authentically and purposefully. And this is a journey. We're going to start small, we're going to stay consistent, and we are going to keep trusting in the process together. So let's make 2025 a year of meaningful growth and transformation. So, what are some next steps you can take? One of the best ways to make a big change like this real is to share your purpose statement and goal with a trusted person or community to keep yourself accountable. May you shared yours, which I really, really appreciate. And if you're comfortable sharing those purpose statements with anybody, please do so. I know they're very personal, but again, the more you can share, the more you can get people on your team to really cheerlead the things that matter the most to you. Another thing that will help is joining our Discord. You will be some of the first people to be part of this community, which means you're actually helping this community as well. So you're the first to go through the Life by Design program. And in the Discord, you will both give and receive support to connect, to share. And that's where our toolkit will be as well. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for the Discord. So go ahead and join the Discord server, and this is the very beginning of it. So we're starting these conversations and support together. If you're already a Patreon supporter, anybody in the paid Patreon tiers will be a VIP in the Discord server, and in the VIP section, that's where you'll get more direct access and you can have smaller, more intimate calls, and I'll be answering questions in the VIP section more regularly. And then keep attending the live sessions. So keep exploring your values, go back and rewatch some of the previous lives on replay as we do the quarterly ones, check in with the quarterly live sessions, and come to our monthly and weekly check-ins as well, like the planning session we're about to have. And then the other thing is just sign up with the newsletter so you can make sure that you're always keeping up with the work. I know that keeping up with Discord, not everybody's super in tune with that. So the newsletter is another great way to keep up with all of the news. But those are going to be some of the best next steps that you can take in order to keep moving forward, as well as doing whatever it is that you committed to doing this week, your one small step that you're going to take this week. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? I don't know if this was too fast. If you feel like sharing feedback with me, I'd love to know what you thought of the session. Let me know in chat. You can ping me privately if that's better, but I would love to know what you thought, or if you have any questions about the framework or where to go from here, please just let me know. I'm going to give you guys a second because I know there's a little bit of a chat delay. And then while we wait for that, I am going to encourage you to come to the weekly planning session every week, and especially the one after this. And then I'll have the study sessions I mentioned last time. I'll have those kicking off in February. All right. Thank you so much. And for those of you who are attending the weekly planning session after this one, you get a little bio break, get a drink, refresh yourself, and I will see you in 16 minutes. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for spending your Sunday with me. But most importantly, thanks for spending some time on Sunday for yourself. I really appreciate it.